You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate Formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. One free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at raharden.com. That's the World Wide Web at RAHARDIN.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit Amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Get ready to fight from within. You're about to go behind enemy lines.
Roger, 3-2. Goliath copies all. Go ahead. Target is surrounded by multiple firms entering what appears to be a residential area. Requesting permission to engage.
From the People's Republic of New York City, you're now going behind enemy lines with Gene Baradelli and Russ Gallo.
And you are now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, America? Gene Baradelli here with you, wrapping up 2016. We're our year in review show. Glad you're here with us wherever you're listening. Hope you're joining us at www.behindenemylinesradio.us, or if you're listening on any one of our podcasts or rebroadcast outlets, we really appreciate that. Before we get going with the show, special shout out to our newest rebroadcast outlet, part of the Red Nation Rising Radio Network, WLBB 1330 AM. Glad you're joining the Behind Enemy Lines family. We really appreciate that. Out of Carrollton, Georgia. Now, I gotta be honest with you. I gotta find it on the map. But, you know, this city boy here in the Yankee North, I appreciate you listening. And, you know, we're glad to be part of the Red Nation Rising family. We love doing the show. Believe it or not, I'm looking up on a map right now, located in West Georgia, USA. In the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. Well, I hope my accent isn't scaring you all. But, I appreciate you tuning in and joining us as part of the Red Nation Rising Radio Network. And if this is your first taste of the show, hope you like it. Hope you come back for more. And we really appreciate you listening, as we do with all of our rebroadcast outlets, which we'll be mentioning throughout the show. But it's our year in review show. So we're going to be playing some interviews we did throughout the year. Some really good ones. I mean, listen, we had a great year. I mean, from traveling to CPAC like we always do and Value Voters Summit, to going to the Faith and Freedom Hold Their Feet to the Fire event, Hold Their Feet to the Fire, being an immigration awareness event in D.C. It was great. It was just such a great year. So many great interviews to choose from. Lots of people came on the show for the first time. But we're going to try to make this as much of a year in review as we are trying to make it relevant and looking towards next year. We're going to have an interview with Roger Stone that we did, and we'll be discussing Donald Trump right around the time when he left the Trump campaign, the beginning of the Trump campaign. We want to take a look back at that, and we want to see what it was like back then to see how far we've come to now for a Trump presidency. We'll also be talking with, I shouldn't say talking with, we did talk with Sam Sorbo syndicated radio host, and talking about homeschooling. Again, a very topical issue, one of those what I like to call evergreen topics that we can always discuss and go back to and look at. And also our interview from the Hold Their Feet to the Fire Radio Row event with Congressman Lou Barletta talking about sanctuary cities, a topic that's being discussed right now with the incoming Trump administration and the conflicts that he'll be having with, San Francisco, the People's Republic of New York City, and other places, as the debate will rage on as to whether these municipalities and these governmental organizations can have their cake and eat it too. Can they keep taking federal money and keep flouting the immigration law? But you know what? I want to just say, before we get to everything, 2016 coming to a close, 2017 in front of us, it's time to take stock in where we are as a nation, in our own personal lives, and time to not just look back, but look forward. Yes, we'll be looking back on this show, and we'll be checking out some of the great work we did, but the best is yet to come for Behind Enemy Lines Radio. For those of you who don't know, maybe you're in WLBB territory or wherever you are, we had a great year, as we seem to always do. We've been very blessed on this show, in that sense. We were nominated for a podcast award, almost won it, for all I know. We were a finalist for it. We were one of the top 10 political shows nominated by listeners. That was the great thing about this award. It wasn't just an insider's award or, one that a clique or a cadre of people would just select. This was the listeners nominating us for this award. So we're greatly appreciative of all of our listeners, and the fact that you nominated us for this was absolutely amazing. We've also been blessed in getting a lot of great guests on the show. And as I look back at some of the names we talked with, like John Bolton, who was up for Secretary of State, Van Hipp, who was up for Secretary of the Army, under, President-elect Donald Trump, both weren't selected, but both were in the running. To see how far we've come and how far up the chain of influential politicos and personalities we've reached, absolutely mind-boggling. I was rooting so hard for Ambassador Bolton and for Van to get those respective positions. It was great to see their names in the news and us jumping up and down trying to get him and get both of them, I should say, into those positions. I mean, what can we do? We're a little rinky-dink show, right? But we were there applauding and cheering right in the front row for them. And then, the camaraderie that the show brings, the fans and the response from people online and in person. I mean, listen, when we go to an event and you have a banner that says the People's Republic of New York City, you're bound to strike up a conversation. So we're always happy to talk to fans all the time. And the show brought my circle of friends, including, Russ Gallo, who WBB people listen to past shows and you'll hear Russ and you'll probably love him. Especially, all the friends and family together friends/family, our family of friends. It's so great to see, and it's so great to experience and be a part of. Can't believe we've been doing this for so long. It's like this is our 6th year. And as we close out this year and look back at some of the best work we've done, I just want to say thank you to everybody for listening. Thanks to everybody for sticking with us over the years. Thanks for believing in us. And we hope you enjoy this look back as much as we did in doing it throughout the year. Here's our interview with Roger Stone. And really, this was an interview that we like with most things, we luck ourselves into. We just were in the right place at the right time. Got into a great discussion with some friends of his, and his book about the Clintons had come out. And we were discussing the book and discussing his experiences with the Trump campaign when he was formally a part of it. It was a great interview. Here, check it out. On the line with me right now, I have the pleasure of speaking with the author of The Clintons' War on Women, probably the one person that I know of in politics that knows just about everything there is to know about politics. I'm talking about Roger Stone. Roger, thanks for coming on the line with us.
Gene, thanks for having me.
I gotta say, this book is probably the most explosive one, and of course I'm talking about The Clintons' War on Women. What gave you the idea to actually blow the lid off of the Clintons?
Well, Hillary's phoniness gets under my skin. The idea that she has ever been an advocate for women or children or girls and children is just completely bogus. In fact, she is a lifetime abuser of women Well, she's an advocate for women as long as you're not one of those women unlucky enough to have been sexually assaulted by her red-faced husband, in which case you now become a target of Hillary and her wrath. First, she and her goons denounce you as a bimbo, a slut, a whore, trash. You see, in their view, it's the woman's fault when Bill assaults them sexually. And then, more importantly, she is the one, as I show in the book, who hires the heavy-handed private detectives who then wage a veritable terror campaign against Bill's victims in order to silence them. Put it another way, first Bill abuses them physically, then Hillary abuses them psychologically. And therefore, I think it's very important to show that the entire narrative, indeed the entire raison d'etre of her campaign is a fraud.
Yeah, and the book, you go through, along with Robert Morrow, who's helped you research it, you go through a whole litany of crimes and cover-ups. Now, I thought I knew all there was to know about Clinton cover-ups and scandals. But there are some things in here like Bill going to drug rehab, abandonment of an African-American son, the real identity of Chelsea Clinton's father. Oh my goodness, Roger. The things in here that I've never heard mentioned, why hasn't it been mentioned before?
Well, it has been. All these things have been reported elsewhere, but they get suppressed by the mainstream media. So everything in my book is carefully documented, is carefully footnoted. I mean, I was on Fox 5 with Greg Kelly last week, who I like, but he was very much on offense, saying everything in this book has been discredited. It's all been disproved. No, Greg, not a word of it has been discredited. Not a word of it has been disproved. Let's take the example of Bill fathering an African-American boy, Danny Williams. Danny Williams is the product of the union of Bill Clinton and his mother, Bobby Ann Williams, who is, unfortunately was a cocaine-addicted prostitute. Danny Williams is no longer a boy. He's now a full-grown man with 5 children of his own. And Bill Clinton refuses to acknowledge his son, to hold him, to love him, to nurture him, to support him. The Star published a piece in 1999 saying that a DNA test disproved that Bill Clinton was the father of Danny Williams. That's a lie. The Star was owned at that time by a man named Robert Altman, who's a major donor to the Clintons, a major donor to the Clinton Foundation, and a friend of Bill. There is no DNA test. It does not exist. But it jumped from the Star, thanks to George Stephanopoulos, to the Washington Post, and Howie Kurtz of the Washington Post printed it as a fact. The truth of the matter is that the Reverend Say McIntosh, who was the minister for the Williams family, began badgering Governor Clinton in public, put out a press release, started following Clinton around in his collar with a sign demanding a blood test. And then suddenly, out of the blue, Reverend McIntosh's son, who was in the Arkansas State Penitentiary, and ineligible legally for pardon, got a full pardon, gets out of jail, and the good Reverend goes silent. Bobby Ann Williams, Danny's mother, described in great detail the exact floor plan of Bill's mother's home. And when asked, why do you insist that Bill Clinton is Danny's father? I mean, you were a prostitute. You presumably were seeing many men. She said, yes, but I was only seeing only one white guy, and that was Bill Clinton.
And listen, I appreciate you going into detail, but we don't want to give away too many details from the book. We want everybody to go out and buy this book because you're going to be shocked and amazed. Now, one thing I have to ask you, and I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask it, Roger. Is this book and the timing of it intended to go after Hillary Clinton as she is trying to be the commander-in-chief?
Let me put it in more favorable terms. This book is to expose her to the American electorate before they make an enormous mistake and elect this congenital liar and fraud president. Hillary Clinton is not the woman you see on TV. She's not some kindly grandmother. She's a foul-mouthed, short-tempered, volcanic, greedy, power-mad control freak. And this is proven over and over again in the book. She's a great actress, although I would argue that she's incapable of sounding sincere. She could be reading the breakfast menu and she would sound like she's lying. She's lying in front of the Benghazi Committee today. For example, as I reveal in the book, the whole idea that the attack on our mission in Benghazi was caused by an anti-Islamic video that showed one time on the internet in Turkey, that was invented by her hatchet man, her hitman, Sidney Blumenthal, who was on the payroll of the Clinton Foundation because the Obama people refused to put him on the federal payroll. But we have the email in which he told Hillary, here's what you say it was caused by a video. This is all designed to get the Democrats and to get the Clintons and the Obamas through the next election, which, as you recall, was only weeks later. Hillary Clinton did not want to admit in the run-up of a presidential election that American interests abroad were attacked by a group affiliated with Al-Qaeda. So she and her quisling, Mr. Blumenthal, invented this lie about a video. And then, when told by American intelligence services at the highest level that that was not true, that it was a precision military operation that attacked our Benghazi, not a mob, not a crowd, she continued to tell that lie. She looked the parents of 4 Americans who died in Benghazi in the face, and she told that lie again. So I think it's important for people to understand that it doesn't matter whether it's being under sniper fire in Bosnia, or whether it is misplacing the Whitewater billing records, or whether it is the disposition of her email server, and whether or not it had classified documents, or whether she was really named after Sir Edmund Hillary, or whether her parents were really immigrants. The woman is a congenital liar.
I definitely tend to believe everything that you're saying, mainly because the tactics that you talk about in your book are now being directed towards you and your book. I recently read a story in the New York Post detailing how there is a concerted effort by people associated with Hillary Clinton to stop people from looking at your book. Amazon getting all these 1-star reviews all at once, and they're all coming from a certain office on Pierpont Street in Brooklyn, right, Roger?
Absolutely true. This is why I need the help of your listeners, Gene. The Clintonites don't want this to become a New York Times bestseller because it makes it much harder for the mainstream media to ignore it if it does. So we have traced all these so-called negative 1-star reviews on Amazon to an IP address at the Clinton headquarters in Brooklyn. The ones that aren't from there are from an IP address at Media Matters for America, which is a front organization for a bunch of twisted freaks, panty-wearing fanboys of Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, that is run by the well-known midget and former conservative David Brock. So, yes, the mainstream media is trying to suppress this book. I was supposed to be on MSNBC yesterday. They sent a car to pick me up. They canceled 45 minutes before my interview with some lame excuse about the segment being double booked. I called my contacts at MSNBC, which are quite good, and one of my friends checked in it, and he came back to me and he said, yes, corporate had pressure from the Clintons. This is Soviet-style censorship. So I ask your listeners, go to rogerstone.com or go to clintonswar.com, no apostrophe, clintonswar.com, either one. You can buy the book online. I need to make this a New York Times bestseller, not only because I want to recover my costs, because I have 2 years' work into the research and writing for this book, but also because I want to make it impossible for CNN and CBS and NBC to ignore.
Well, we're going to do our part for sure, because thanks to you and thanks to people at Skyhorse, we're going to be giving away a copy of the book to a lucky listener on next week's show. So we're going to make sure, Roger, we get the word out about the book 100%. I can't wait to pick it up and read it myself. I know that there's a copy in transit to me right now. It's going to be my train read for the next couple of weeks. Can't wait for it. Before I let you go, I do have to ask one question. Again, wouldn't be doing my job unless I was asking a question about your former client, Donald Trump. I just wanted to ask, not so much about your relationship with him, because that's all been done. I wanted to ask what you feel is your impression of him as far as if he is willing to listen to advisors going forward now. He's going to be transitioning now from first impression to developing a real operation, 50 states across the nation. Will he be able to be coachable, in your opinion, and be able to sustain the growth that he's put himself on the path to?
Well, first of all, let me say that my relationship with him is fine. I spoke to him today. I speak to him every couple of days. We've been friends for 35 years, and I strongly support his campaign for president. I really do believe that only Trump can make America great again. Only Trump has the independence, financial independence, and the guts to take on the special interests. All these other candidates are funded by lobbyists and special interests and the Koch brothers and the super PACs. And Donald's right. All that money has strings on it. Donald Trump is nobody's man but yours. And that's really why I support him. Whether or not he can take advice remains to be seen. Look, without advice, he seems to be doing pretty darn well. He's leading, in every major state. There's a poll out today that shows that he has slipped behind Ben Carson by 1 point in Iowa. I'm not sure I believe it. It may be an outlier. But so far, so good. He is running an unconventional campaign. And frankly, I think it's one of the reasons why he struck a chord with voters. He is unscripted. He is uncoached. He is uncontrolled and uncontrollable. You can't buy Trump. You can't bully Trump. That's why, in my view, he's the only man that can save this country, and the only candidate running this year, that I feel would take Hillary on. You got to get in her face. Does anyone think Marco Rubio is going to ask her the tough questions? Ask her about serial rape and the cover-ups that she has orchestrated? Ask her about Bill's drug use and why Hillary served as the lawyer for the biggest drug kingpin in the state of Arkansas, getting him a pardon from Bill Clinton? These questions need to be directly asked, and only Donald Trump has the gumption to ask them.
When it comes to these topics, Roger, you're the man I believe. You don't get to be where you are and 40 years of experience in national politics and presidential politics at that without developing a tremendous amount of credibility. Folks, go get this book, The Clintons' War on Women. Check out clintonswar.com, rogerstone.com. Roger Stone, you are the man. Thank you so much for doing this interview. Look forward to talking to you in the near future.
Thanks for having me.
And that was Roger Stone talking about his experiences with Donald Trump, talking about his book about the Clinton crime family, which is a great book. You should check it out where finer books are sold. And listen, that typifies the kind of year we had. Getting Roger Stone on a like I said, a rinky-dink show like ours, kind of a coup. It was kind of a big deal for us, and we're so appreciative that he was able to come on. And kind of got me thinking, like when I say rinky-dink show like ours, and we're discussing the idea of fake news and the idea of partisan news sites and things like that. That seems to be the carrying call, I guess, of the liberal nowadays. Let me make it clear for those who may be just joining us on WLBB or any one of our other rebroadcast outlets, or found us on podcasts, or are listening to us at www.behindenemylines.radio.us. We are not a news show. We have opinions, and we express them quite vociferously here behind Enemy Lines. We're not looking for people to come to us to expect quote-unquote fair and balanced coverage. We have an opinion. We follow the news. We give you our take on the news. We give you our slant on the news. This is slanted coverage. Our view is askew. We tend to lean right. We try to be fair, but we tend to lean right. And listen, we're not going to hide who we are and what we do. We are a talk show. And I think this is what the left doesn't get a lot of the time, is that opinions are okay to have. It's not okay to masquerade as news. I'm looking right at you, CNN, and have opinions. And yet, I don't get what in the world all these liberals are having their heads explode over. They've been such mainstream news coverage that has been slanted left for so long and so many years that's finally been exposed. I mean, Glenn Thrush in those Podesta emails saying, don't show anybody that I'm showing you this ahead of time, and what do you think of it, and all that. And then he gets a job with the New York Times. Come on, folks. If you don't know that news has been skewed for some time, and quote unquote fake news can come from mainstream sources, then you're not doing it right. You gotta really open your eyes and see what's out there. If you really want pure news, go to the source. Go to places like the AP or Reuters where they post transcripts of press conferences. Or, look up the secondaries. Go look up what the secondary sources don't give you. Go right to the primary. And if you're on one of those quote unquote fake news sites and you want to see what's what and who's who, a lot of times they have links to other stories that will be more quote unquote reputable sites. Check those out. Don't be a passive listener. Don't be a passive consumer. Do your work, do your research, do your job, and be responsible in the choices that you make. And we're glad that you're making this responsible choice of listening to us, even if our opinions are skewed a little bit. The next interview we're going to present to you is from our friend Sam Sorbo. Sam, part of the Red Nation Rising Radio Network and one of our dear close friends. Happy to say she is a friend of the show, and we were more than happy to talk to her about her views on school choice and specifically homeschooling, in which she too has written a book. So check out this interview we did with Sam Sorbo. On the line with me right now, it is a pleasure to welcome to the show. Well, maybe not a pleasure because she's kind of the competition. Syndicated radio show host, author, mother of 3 beautiful children, Sam Sorbo. Sam, how are you?
Really? Are you also the mother of 3 beautiful children?
No, I'm saying you are. Stop it.
You said I was
How are you?
I'm just trying to identify how. No,
well, I'm not an author. I'm on a station and a half, maybe. And no kids. So.
No kids.
So,
okay.
So,
well,
yeah, unfortunately, not there yet. But a beautiful nephew who you may hear in the background doing his ABCs in the back.
Awesome. Now, tell me, does he go to public school?
Yes, he does. He goes to the same public school I went to, PS 52 here in Brooklyn, New York.
Wow, okay. All right.
And
well,
so far,
things have changed since you went to school.
Oh my goodness, have they ever. I used to have, when I went to high school, metal detectors, security pat-downs, all that fun stuff. All the stuff that parents can avoid if they follow your advice in your book, They're Your Kids. Tell everybody about your experiences with homeschooling.
So They're Your Kids is an inspirational, I hope, journey from self-doubter to homeschool advocate. I used to laugh at homeschooling. It just didn't seem realistic to me. But the more convinced I became that the schools were failing my children, the more I realized I was going to have to do it myself. And it's almost a circular thing, because the more you do for yourself, the more capable you realize you are, that you never really understood before. And I've realized now that our schools are training us to think that we are inadequate. And so I get a lot of pushback from people that I talk to. I go, have you considered homeschooling? They're, oh no, I could never do that. And I have to ask them, okay, so you're saying that you're inadequate to teach a 3rd grader or a 4th grader, but you graduated from the public school system that made you that inadequate, and you're okay with sending your child there, and you know that it's worse now than it was when you attended school, because everybody agrees the schools are worse, right? They haven't improved.
I think that's fair to say, especially when you talk about the public school system. And they're trying here in the People's Republic of New York City to put the Band-Aid of charter schools there, so it makes it more selective and more competitive. So now only certain kids get a good quality education versus others. And a lot of it has to do, in my opinion, with the way that unions have strangleholds over communities and schools nowadays.
The teachers' unions are the biggest political donor. So you tell me.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. The UFT is the most powerful thing here in, like I said, the People's Republic of New York. But parents can kind of circumvent all that. All of the curriculum that they don't want to deal with, the curricula they don't want to deal with, school professionals who are just frustrating as all get out, and any sort of fears that come from the negative socialization of bullying and, feeling inadequate and low self-esteem that may come with a negative school environment. But how can a parent who is, like you, Sam, professional, on the go, in demand, do that and balance, your child's upbringing and schoolwork?
Well, here's the thing. I can't compromise on my kids. I can't. So, yeah, I do a talk show. I do a show every day, 3 hours a day. I have all that. I don't sleep much. I don't play much. But I play with my kids. I have my kids and I do the show. And I make it work because if I couldn't make it work, I would be not doing the show. But there are a lot of different ways to homeschool. I have friends who, and I think this is brilliant too, they didn't want to take on the whole education thing, so they hired, at less than what it would cost them to send their kids to private school, they hired retired school teachers. But they went and they chose the curriculum. They invested at least that much so they know what their kids are learning, because believe me, you don't know what your kids are learning in school. And you might be very surprised if they would tell you honestly what they're teaching the kids, but they won't. In fact, if you go to the school and ask to see certain tests, they will deny you that right. And so my friends just hire, they actually hire one teacher per house, which you could get away with, one teacher for 2 or 3 kids, certainly. And the teacher comes to their house 4 hours a day and does all of the work with the kids. And then the rest of the day, the kids are free to pursue whatever other endeavors they want.
It definitely sounds like something that more parents may want to explore. I think when it comes to especially inner city and urban parents, there is, unfortunately, an apathy there, a feeling of entitlement that this isn't my job, this is somebody else's job, because their parents weren't there for them as well. How do you break that cycle in inner city schools and bring this idea to them that, well, you can do this yourself, and you can instill the values and the value of education yourself and not have to farm out your brain and farm out your kids' brains to government?
Well, obviously, that's the point of my book, although I think you're making a generalization that doesn't necessarily apply. They feel entitled because they're paying for it. We are paying the government to educate our children. Is the government fulfilling their end of the bargain? No. And so we keep getting new directives. This is like the 12th new overhaul of our school system in maybe twice as many years. I mean, it's nearly yearly now, this new overhaul, this newfangled plan. And I have to ask you, they implemented Common Core. Ask them for the proof that it works. There is none. They never tested it. That's
what we hear from a lot of parents here as well. We hear, Common Core is here in New York, and virtually every school district that I hear about has a group of parents that is fighting unsuccessfully to get rid of Common Core, and it seems like the state is unwilling to do so.
They have to take their kids out of the school. They have to deprive the school of the funds that follow the children. They deprive the school, and all of a sudden the schools fail. And then that's a problem for the government, because the government has promised to deliver something that they're not delivering. Parents have to, we have to get together and we have to go after the government for our money back. We want a refund.
It sounds great. I just don't know if a PTA, because you think about it, a PTA is like an organization for parents that is perpetuating the growth of the school, right? So parents have to get mobilized outside of that environment. And, I need to see, how we got to get parents mobilized that way. It's hard to do, right?
It is hard. And what happens is when you leave the school and you're educating your child for yourself and you're realizing what a sham the education system is in this country, and the fact that you were convinced by our educators that you're not good enough and that you don't need to have that parent-child relationship that is so precious, that bond that you can grow with your child by being the child's educator. Because rest assured, when your child crosses the threshold of the school, they leave behind your authority. Your authority is immediately undermined. Now, I don't put the blame, by the way, just so we're clear, I don't put the blame on the teachers for this. I blame the system, and I blame the people who organized this system. But the children enter the school is then the authority. What kind of authority? Everything wisdom. So don't be surprised when you have a surly teenager who doesn't give a crap about what mommy or daddy thinks, because they've been taught for 8 years that mommy and daddy don't really have a valuable opinion on many things.
Right. They become inferior to the system. And I see it now with my nephew. He came back from school with a couple of bad habits, even in pre-K. Coming back with, a little bit more of a sassy mouth, a little bit more of an attitude that he picks up from his friends, and that it seemed to be tolerated in the school. So even in those formative behavioral points early on, it starts there almost.
Well, we've hamstrung the teachers. They're not allowed to discipline. They're not allowed to reprimand. I mean, you've got kids showing up to high school with their cell phones, and they're calling mommy and daddy over every little thing the teacher does.
That's the other side of it too. Absolutely. Well, listen, I know that your time is precious. We got a lot to talk about, but I want to make sure everybody knows that they're going to be picking up They're Your Kids. The book comes out April 30th, right?
Yes, but it's available for pre-sale on my website. Go to samsorbo.com or go to theyreyourkids.com and you can find it for pre-sale. And then it goes live, it drops actually April 30th. And thank you so much. And I want to send send the parents of your nephew a book. So we'll do that offline. But
that would be fantastic
for having me on. I really
it's my pleasure. Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. I love free stuff. And by the way, I want everybody also to go to Well, let's give you the extra plugs now because you're giving away the free stuff. Go on Twitter at The Sam Sorbo Show. And by the way, I had the pleasure of interviewing your husband at CPAC about 2 years ago. Oh, and I have to say congratulations to him because he married up. And he did a fantastic job there. And listen, anything that we can do to help promote the book further, we're happy to do here. We love all the work that you're doing. Go get this book, everybody. They're Your Kids. Pre-sale right now at samsorbo.com. And if you want to wait till it hits the bookstores and you're old like me and you want to handle it that way, April 30th is the date. We'll be sure to remind you about that as well.
Thank you so much, Gene.
We're about at halftime here at the show. Thanks for listening to Behind Enemy Lines Radio. I'm Gene. Russ is not here right now. Please leave a message after the beep. And while you're waiting for the beep, you can check us out at www.behindenemylinesradio.us. Check us out on the Facebooks and the Twitters at BEL_radio. And if you miss any part of the live show, which is usually live, but this week's on tape, Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern on Spreaker, you can check us out at any one of our rebroadcast outlets, including WJHC 107.5 FM in Jasper, Florida, WDDQ 92.1 FM in Adel, Georgia, and welcome to WLBB 1330 AM in Carrollton, Georgia, all part of the Red Nation Rising Radio Network. You can also check us out at KLRN Radio, High Plains Talk Radio and Sackheads Media, ICRN, the Internet's Conservative Radio Network, and Lanterns Radio. But even if you missed those rebroadcasts, check us out on demand as a podcast on iTunes, Podbay, Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, Player FM. You can discover us on Google Play Music, SoundCloud, and also on iHeartRadio. We're getting around, and the show's growing by leaps and bounds seemingly every week here. And one of the big reasons for that is our Buffoon of the Year contest. Who you got, America? We're down to the final four in our Buffoon of the Year. We started out with 16 buffoons gathered together in one place, put into a tournament-style bracket at www.behindenemylinesradio.us, and we've been whittling it down to see who was the biggest buffoon of 2016. Right now, it is down to Donna Brazil, the Huffington Post, Anthony Weiner, and Colin Kaepernick. You see, we've pulled from every walk of life to see who we got here in America as the biggest buffoon. And we're getting down to it. We have a little bit more time left this week for the semifinal vote, and then we're going to do the finals all next week. And in our first show, 2016, we will reveal Buffoon of the Year. But you have to let us know. This is a fan-friendly show, folks. We need you to participate. Get to voting, all right? Let us know who you got in Buffoon of the Year. Folks, this has been a great year. It's been a lot of fun. As you see, it's not all serious politics on this show. We have a little bit of fun here and there. We love our 2-drink minimum radio, and we love it when our friends who come on to the show and participate with us forget to take their meds, and we have no medication Tuesdays. It's a lot of fun. It's part of that camaraderie that I was talking to you about with our family of friends, and it's a great time. But we do get serious. We do talk a lot about issues and topics of concern, and we get together with a lot of great people, including Congressman Lou Barletta. Congressman Barletta has been on the forefront of an issue that is just now, again, picking up steam, and mainly because of Donald Trump. The issue of illegal immigration, and specifically sanctuary cities. Now, Congressman Barletta did a great job when we were at the Hold Their Feet to the Fire event in discussing and framing the issue of sanctuary cities and the work that he's been doing since he was a mayor in Pennsylvania and has tried to bring to the federal level. And he's been on the forefront of this for a very long time. Congressman Barletta may find that 2017 might be the year his issue of concern, his main issue, finally gets some traction. Because as we've seen in the early moments of the Trump's transition, President-elect Donald Trump has said, if you will be a sanctuary city, you will lose out on federal funding. And this sent a lot of cities like Chicago, the People's Republic of New York City, San Francisco, and other places almost apoplectic. I mean, we saw Rahm Emanuel hold a press conference in direct defiance of the president-elect. We saw, Warren Wilhelm, the real name of New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, this wingnut, defy the president-elect. And by the way, for those of you who are listening in the People's Republic of New York City, seems to be some some grand jury work going on, going into the fundraising efforts of one Mayor Bill de Blasio. I know I'm enjoying that, and I can't wait to see if he's the next one to hit on our corruption clock. If you check out www.behindenemylinesradio.us, we have a little corruption counter, kind of like that, the little cartoon sign that says 0 days since our last accident that you see on, like, work sites and whatever. We have that for political corruption in New York State. At last count, it's somewhere around, 40 days or so, 44 days, 9 hours or so, since the last news out of the People's Republic of New York of another politician biting the dust, as it were. So maybe Bill de Blasio's next. But back to the topic of sanctuary cities. Congressman Barletta on our Hold Their Feet to the Fire show did a tremendous job of outlining the importance of the issue, what the issue actually is, and what can be done to deal with it. So enough of me talking about it. Here's Congressman Lou Barletta talking about sanctuary cities. Gene Baradelli back behind enemy lines, and I have the pleasure right now to sit down with the representative from the 11th District of the great state of Pennsylvania, Congressman Lou Barletta. Sir, thank you for coming on the show, and tell us about your involvement with FAIR. I believe you're on the Board of Advisors, right?
I am, Gene. I've been doing this now for 10 years. It goes back to my time as mayor of Hazleton when I first started to come down here, and I've been doing it every year.
Well, let's talk about your term as mayor, because that's really where you started dealing with the issue of illegal immigration. It's not just a federal issue; it's a local issue.
Yeah, it is. There's no question. Nobody here in Congress saw it from with the same perspective that I saw it, trying to deal with it as a mayor of Hazleton. Our population in Hazleton grew by 50%, but our tax revenues stayed the same. When I realized we had an illegal immigration problem, I came down and met with the Department of Justice in December of 2005. They brought all these experts in to talk to me. I told them about the problem that I had, the crime and the illegal immigration problem. And what they gave me at the end of the day was a nice coffee mug, a lapel pin, a pat on the back, and they sent me home. I realized that the federal government wasn't going to do anything to help me on a local level. A couple months later, May 10th, 2006, day I'll never forget, Derek Kishline, 29-year-old city man, father of 3 children. I had some words with the head of the Latin Kings, Pedro Cabrera, someone who was in the country illegally, arrested 6 times in New York and left go. Comes to Hazleton. Cabrera goes in his car, gets a gun, sticks it in Derek's face, shoots and kills him. We spent half of our yearly budget in overtime in the police department in catching Cabrera and his buddy, and I had enough. Enough was enough, and I created the first law in America dealing with illegal immigration. I was immediately sued the next day by illegal aliens who were defended by the ACLU, pro bono. I fought it all the way to the Supreme Court. It became a national issue, although we did not win. Because of the liberal Third Circuit Court that I had to face. We paved the way for other states and municipalities across America. Arizona used the business portion of my ordinance, and Fremont, Nebraska used the entire ordinance. So it's been a long fight for me, and now I got here to Washington, and I got to see behind the curtains and see exactly what I knew all along from the time I was mayor. There's no real will here to do anything about illegal immigration.
Let's talk about what it's like behind the curtains when it comes to this issue. And you say that there's no will. Tell us exactly what you mean by that. Does that mean that there's no political courage to take on the issue and to call it what it is?
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely correct. Listen, it's for a politician, this is not a topic that you want to be out front on because they're worried about getting reelected. You're going to be called a lot of names. Listen, I've had threats. I've been called every name in the book. It goes on and on and on. I've had to have the police sit outside my house some nights because of the fact that I stood up and said what I thought I saw, not what I thought I saw, what I know. No, there's no real will here. People talk the talk, but there's not any action. I mean, here we are. I'm telling you a story about 2006. It's 2016. We're still talking about our open borders. And the threat has gotten worse. Think about it, 2006. We just thought about people coming here taking our jobs, depressing the wages of the American worker. Then we learned, listen, this is the way the drug cartel gets here. Now it's even worse than that. Radical Islamic terrorists are here. And it's still not enough for people here in Washington to say, hey, I think it's a good idea if we secure our borders and we know who's coming into this country. Very first bill I introduced when I got here would prohibit $1 federal to go to any city that declares itself a sanctuary city.
Thank you for bringing up this issue, because I come from the People's Republic of New York City, where we're allocating $60 million for municipal IDs that can be picked up by anybody in a public library and apply for it, and then they can have ID. There's a movement now in the New York City Council to allow for a second type of ballot for illegal immigrants to be able to vote in municipal elections. It's absolute insanity to me to think that government that is basically paid for by citizens who are here legally, whose families have been here for generations, who have a vested interest in what happens in government, are now being diluted by liberals, really, who are fighting for rights for people who don't even respect the laws of this country.
Well, what's crazy is that we have elected officials who are giving more rights to illegal aliens than United States citizens would have. A sanctuary city, they are creating a safe haven where the government will protect the identities of people who have knowingly broken our laws, coming here to the United States, taking our jobs, putting Americans' national security at risk, because we don't know who is who. We don't know the background of any individual that have skirted the interview process. We have government officials protecting illegal aliens. You know, when I was sued by the illegal aliens, when I created that law in Hazleton, the illegal aliens went to the judge and asked if they could have their identities protected, which he granted. We weren't.
Wait. So they were suing, but they didn't want anybody to know who they were while they were suing you.
Nor could we ask them their name. I don't even know if they were really from Hazleton. We weren't allowed to ask. They then went back and asked the judge if they could be excused from showing up at the trial because they were in the country illegally and they didn't want to go to a federal courthouse out of fear of being deported, and the judge granted them that wish.
I'm amazed that they had standing to even sue. That's the craziness of it.
So these illegal aliens were given more rights than you or me, who could not sue our municipality, our city, and remain anonymous. I never saw our accuser. I thought that was a right that every American had. I never saw our accuser to this day. And the court ruled in favor of the illegal aliens. So, you know, here we are, and I can tell you there's a lot of talk here in Washington, but not a lot of will or backbone to actually do something about it.
Well, let's forget about the talk in Washington for a second. Let's talk about the talk around the nation, because maybe it's just me, but let me get your opinion on this. Can we agree that the issues of illegal immigration has been put on the forefront of a campaign for the first time in a very long time?
Oh, there's no question. If it wasn't for Donald Trump, we wouldn't be talking about it. You know, he had the courage to come out and say what people have been thinking, and I related to that because, for a very long time I stood out there by myself, and I couldn't get a politician to come near me. And come to think of it, it was pretty refreshing. I wish I can do that again now, but.
Be a Republican in New York City. They'll do that all the time for you. Don't worry.
But if it wasn't for Trump, this issue, we would not be talking about it. The other politicians would have skirted around the issue a little bit, throw out a couple of talking points, but there's no real backbone. This is why the American people are as angry as they are, because they don't believe that anybody here in Washington has the courage to do anything about illegal immigration.
Well, listen, I'm glad that we got the chance to speak. You got to make the rounds to all the tables here. Congressman Lou Barletta, tell people, listen, one thing we know from this game is that money and people is what makes the world go round in politics. We want to make sure that you get as much support as you can in all your endeavors in Pennsylvania and here in Washington. Tell people how they can get in touch with you, your staff, or any social media stuff that you want to do and all that fun stuff.
They could follow me and go to my website at loubarletta.com. Lets you know everything that I'm doing, and I'm going to continue the fight, and people can help.
Before I let you go, though, I know we did the plugs right now, and we're going to do it again because I like this guy a lot, folks. I just want to let you know right now. I got to get your opinion on Bill de Blasio, because you mentioned in the story about Hazleton how it was a New York criminal that came into your community and committed that horrendous act. What do you think about this progressive agenda by this now embattled mayor of New York City?
Well, I don't agree with any mayor that creates a safe haven for people who have knowingly broken our laws to come and be protected by that by that governor. You know, I had a history with some of the New York mayors. I had to testify at one time when I was mayor with Mayor Bloomberg. Actually, it was Mayor Bloomberg, myself, and Police Commissioner Johnson from Philadelphia. We testified at a Senate Judiciary Committee with Senator Ted Kennedy. And, at the time, Mayor Bloomberg said that New York City's economy would crash if it didn't have illegal immigrants. Who would wash our dishes, he said, who would bus our tables, who would clean our hotel rooms. And, my Italian went from 0 to 100. I said, I'll tell you who will wash those dishes. The single mom that not only has to clean hotel rooms, but wash dishes, and I'll tell you who will bust those tables, the high school dropout that has nowhere else to go. What happens to those people? We don't need to bring people in America to take jobs away from those that depend on it to feed their families.
And believe me, when you hear an Italian-American say that they go from 0 to 100 that quickly, wow. It's time to get out of the room, look out for wooden spoons, and just generally stay out of people's ways, man. I grew up in a household just like that. The wooden spoon in the back of the head every time. So let's talk one last time about Washington. Even though I hate talking about Washington, I come from New York and this is kind of a welcome change, but Washington to me still feels like a swamp, and I gotta feel dirty kind of when I leave it. Is there any push by the leadership in the House to get any kind of vote onto the floor regarding illegal immigration? You said that there's no political will. Does it start at the top of the House leadership? Am I going to be able to get you to talk badly about House leadership?
I think it's throughout. I think it's throughout. I have a bill that would go after visa overstays, and it's very hard to get any of these bills to the floor. I think we need somebody in the White House that will drive the issue. Because this is a topic that most politicians here in Washington, they don't want to do anything about because they're afraid that they won't get reelected again.
And yet they had a perfect opportunity with the refugee relocation program to actually take a stand and actually possibly get a victory. Why didn't that happen?
It's unbelievable. I mean, here we are. I had 4. I'm on Homeland Security Committee. We had 4 national security experts testify that we cannot properly check the backgrounds of anyone coming from Syria, and at the same time we are continuing to allow people to come into America to put our families and our friends and our neighbors at risk. Let's just start doing the right thing. And when Donald Trump, and I like to say this because I think this really gets at the heart of what people here in America are saying. Let's put America first for a change. We are the greatest country on this planet, but at the same time we need to protect Americans first.
Well, listen, I'm glad that you're in Congress protecting Americans first on this issue and many other issues. Good luck to you in your election futures. I'm sure that you're getting ready to go back to the 11th and start communicating this message to them. It's probably a message that you were voted in on in the first place,
That's
right?
how I got here. I came from a district that is 2-1 Democrat. And it just shows you how deep, people feel, how strongly they feel about issues that affect their families and their jobs. And if more politicians did that, they wouldn't have to worry about re-election. If I don't get elected again because I stood up for what I believe in, I'll be happy to go back to Hazleton and find another job. But I worry about my children, grandchildren, and what America will look like.
And that's what you call an elected official working behind enemy lines. Congressman Barletta, thank you so much for coming down, and we'll see you down the road.
Thank you. Good to talk to you.
As we close out the year, there are so many people to thank for putting this show together. First and foremost, our friends at Media Research Center, and specifically Dan Gaynor, who has come on every month to discuss media bias and in the liberal media and lamestream media. He's been such a good friend of the show. I want to thank him so much for coming on month after month and dealing with me, really. He's done phenomenal with that. And honestly, folks, of course, my co-host Russ Gallo, who is, not only my best friend, but the best guy you could ever work with. Russ provides so much fire and energy to the show, and so do all of our friends, Amanda Kohut and Matt Fairley and Yak Attack, Yakov Bard, Diana Sepulveda. I'm going to mess up on not naming someone. It's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. But I'm so appreciative of what they all do. I mean, the rundown of guests that we had just in the past year: John Bolton, Van Hipp, Congressman Marsha Blackburn, Congressman Lou Barletta, Congressman Jody Heiss, James O'Keefe, Niger Innes, Congressman Dave Brack, Congressman Steve King, Jason Beardsley, who spoke at the RNC, a good friend of ours on veterans issues, Scotty Hughes, Governor Matt Bivin, Neil Monroe, journalist extraordinaire from Breitbart. So many names that we have to say thank you to, and so many that I'm going to miss out on. So I'm just going to say generally to everyone who's been a part of Behind Enemy Lines in 2016, thank you so much. God bless. And we do it all again in 2017. But until then, folks, from the People's Republic of New York, we are out of here. Good night, folks.
Our position has been compromised. It's time to roll out. Report for debriefing at www.BehindEnemyLinesRadio.us and look for regular communications via Facebook and Twitter at BEL_radio. You are the resistance. Behind Enemy Lines. A Rock Radio production. Copyright 2016. Back in 7 days. Out.